Oh, there he is. Everybody knows him. But this is the first time he's been here with me, but we've hung out several times. We have mutual friends, and I wouldn't say there's mutual respect. I don't think I have any credibility, but I have a lot of respect for you.
I respect what you're doing and your humor and your humanity and anything else I can think of.
I'll take all that. That's fine. That's enough. That's as good as it can get. So it's great to talk to you. You've been in a lot of demand right now because of the chaos at your former agency, the FBI. Where are we as we speak here on Tuesday night when there seems to be a purge? It would seem to be there were questions asked in Kash Patel's hearing about whether or not there would be political retribution. And you said in your recent MSNBC column, they should bring him back up for questioning, because there already has been, because the Trump administration, acting attorney general, I think, demanded that anybody involved with the J6 investigations, any agent, which could be hundreds, if not thousands, that they all be named and then maybe purged, Frank?
Yeah. You're right. About every 5 minutes, something changes here. But the breaking news this afternoon has been that 2 lawsuits have been filed, one by the FBI Agents Association, representing virtually every single special agent in the FBI. The other is a class action lawsuit by the affected FBI agents. And you're right, it's between 4,000 and 6,000 FBI agents who worked the January 6 cases that they were assigned to work. They did their job. And for that, we have acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, whose claim to fame, by the way, is that he was Trump's defense attorney. As an aside there, I don't hear anyone asking whether Mr. Bove is still getting paid his legal fees from representing Trump, because last time I looked at the SEC filings of the PAC that's paying Trump's legal fees, they still owed Mr. Bove's law firm over $800,000. So you think that's a conflict of interest, that the Deputy Attorney General needs about $1 million that Trump still hasn't paid him? Just a thought.
I love that you still want to call out conflicts of interest. Isn't that cute?
I know it's an obsolete term, but it's a retro concept.
Actually, let's not normalize acting like it's not important. It is important. Conflict of interest matter. You investigated corruption, which we can talk about. What's the attitude of inside the FBI right now? As a hardcore lefty, I've always been especially irked by the idea that the right has painted the FBI as these deep state liberal mamby-pamby Democrats because they're far more likely to be conservative and even Trump supporters, but they were just doing their job. You don't get to pick which investigation you want to do when you're an FBI agent. So what are you hearing from those that are at risk right now, or losing their jobs, or being purged, investigated, or having their names be put out there and their families be put out there? Now these J6ers that got pardoned can come hunt them down.
Yeah, this is for real. It's one thing for field agents to look at the purge at headquarters, the top layer of management, and say, it's a bunch of suits. I don't know those guys. Well, it's another thing entirely where we're looking at potentially thousands of agents being asked to give their names. And by the way, the FBI, kind of an interesting twist today, turned over all of the information they were demanded to turn over, but did not include the agents' full names. They included only their employee ID numbers. So, it's something. It's a form of resistance temporarily, but more importantly, they're all on board for these court cases to ask a court to tell DOJ to cease and desist. Think about that in the history of our country. The FBI, a part of the DOJ, is suing the DOJ for unlawful activity. Never before in our history. The agent cadre is demoralized. They're wondering. Most of the agents, of course, aren't eligible yet for retirement. They're looking at losing their pension, losing a paycheck. And for how long? Yes, they might win in court, of course, but how long will it take for this to go all the way to the Supreme Court as a test of executive powers and whether or not a president can fire literally any federal employee at will? It's the demise of the rule of law. I'll point out, not to be over dramatic, because this is the real deal, most of these agents worked the January 6 cases from their assignments on joint terrorism task forces, known as JTTFs. Every single field office has one. They keep us safe between, peace and terror attack. And if you're going to essentially delete the resources of JTTFs around the country, you are leaving us wide open for attack.
Well, if the resources are humans, actual agents across all of these offices, I can't imagine how important, number one, institutional knowledge is. So when you get rid of people who've been there for a long time, then, some new agent doesn't even know where their stapler is, much less whether or not this guy was investigated for a previous crime where he tried to blow up people at a mall. Like, I would think that that's such an important issue. So talk a little bit more about the security issues. The FBI does all kinds of different things, and reading your resume, it looks like you did just about all of them. So give us some scenarios that you're most concerned about if you start firing agents who, by the way, were paid, their training took huge amounts of money to invest in, time and money, and then you're just going to get rid of all that education and all that experience, and then there's a hiring freeze, as you so aptly wrote in your column. So you're not even replacing them. How dangerous is this?
Yeah, there's no backfill coming. If you go, well, good, the plan is to replace all these knuckleheads with MAGA FBI agents. It does take up to 2 years, even longer, to do the background, to get you through the academy at Quantico and get you on board. And then, as you said, you're simply trying to find your way to the restroom for the first few weeks in the office. Where's my car? Where's the bathroom? Right? And now, the experience level, even for the senior agents at headquarters who got all the executive assistant directors got walked out, all of them, decades upon decades of experience. And you may say, well, so what? The so what is that this whole domino effect occurs, right? You have to move somebody up into an acting EAD, which means it's probably the AD, which means somebody has to move into the assistant director as acting until you get people who absolutely don't know the role that they're supposed to be filling. And that is a huge leadership gap and experience gap that I am certain foreign intelligence services will exploit. I would, if I heard that this was going on in the Russian services or the Chinese, I'd be all over it, exploiting it. And so will the terror organizations.
Is this something that is in any way normal to dismiss? Or, I'm sure they don't get fired. They're not political appointees. The heads of these offices, were they fired, Frank?
Yeah, they were.
These guys worked in the FBI for decades and they were just fired?
Yeah, it went like, the discussion went like this. You can retire if you're eligible, but you got to do it by like Monday. You can resign if you want to, which is, your choice, or I'll fire you. And all three of the above happened with the most senior layer of the FBI.
Have you talked to any of those guys? Have you talked to any of them?
Yeah.
What's the reaction to that? What do they say about that? There's got to be, and then all the guys working for him. I remember, say what you will about James Comey, it seemed like he was pretty well respected by the people that worked at the FBI when he was dismissed by a tweet. Yeah. And Robert Mueller and the previous. So, like, don't these guys have guys that look up to them? You talked about the demoralization, but that word does a lot of work there. But unpack it. It actually means something to people. What's
really kind of heartwarming, I suppose, is I get calls from people who go, "You don't understand how respected this woman was or this man was that just got walked out the door." By the time you get to executive assistant director, you've got a huge network of people throughout the field that you've supervised and worked with throughout the years, right? And you're probably not an asshole. It's rare. Because you got to network and get to that position. So people are astounded. There's one story involving a woman who's a non-agent. She was an executive assistant director over like administrative functions, technology, records management, beloved by everybody. 33 years in the Bureau, but because she's not an agent, she still isn't eligible for retirement. She had 2 more years to go, and she begged not to get fired, and they fired her, and she's beloved. And so they're all pissed. They're all going to sue. But you raise an interesting point. It's not just about them. It's about everybody looking at that and going, this is an injustice. So what Kash Patel could walk into is a scenario where he's already pissed off 37,000 employees. Good luck with that.
I don't know anything about any of this, but I can imagine that many of those agents and many of those people were working on more than one case, maybe multiple cases, and then they just put it down and walk out. What happens to their work? What happens to those cases? Understand
what an executive assistant director means. So I was the assistant director for counterintelligence. I oversaw all counterintelligence investigations actually not only in the FBI, but the whole US government, because that's how the FBI works with espionage. I answered to an executive assistant director who had multiple divisions under him. So I answered to the National Security EAD, who had counterterrorism, counterintelligence, all overseas operations, right? Then there's another EAD who has criminal, cyber, and critical incident response, hostage rescue team. I could keep going. They're all gone. So you say, did they work more than one case? No, they oversaw billions of dollars and millions of cases in multiple divisions underneath them at headquarters.
I don't even know how to comprehend the consequences of that. Obviously, the FBI has never gone through anything remotely like this, right? Like, we're not going to find out that I'm just being biased and I haven't looked at the history of the agency and the politics around, administration changes and transitions.
The closest we've come to, and it's not even close, was Watergate. And the whole deep throat era, where the number 2 guy in the FBI, Mark Felt, ended up getting charged, by the way, for illegal wiretaps and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And so did an assistant director. And that was it. That was it.
It's terrifying what that means for national security. Tell us, you worked on corruption cases for a while. That word, again, doesn't mean, like a lot of other important words, democracy, integrity, all the words that were painted over. Where was that picture you put out went absolutely viral? Before I get to that question about corruption, what about that picture? They're painting over all these words at an FBI.
So the FBI has core values that are everywhere. They're on the website. They're on everywhere. The photo you're referring to is from the New York Times. I posted it on my Instagram account. And it shows a worker painting over the FBI's core values that are on the wall at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Those words include integrity, adherence to the Constitution, leadership, compassion, fairness, and diversity. And so that's all getting painted over. And how symbolic is that photo regarding what's going on today? And look, you can fall down however you want on DEI. I don't even need to have that discussion. I'm just going to tell you, from a street level in the FBI, try doing a surveillance in the inner city with 2 middle-aged white guys in a sedan. Try that. See if that works. Been there, done that. Try being an undercover agent to penetrate a Middle Eastern terror organization as a white guy. It doesn't work. So
you need people from every single ethnic background, speaking every language, worshiping every god. Diversity, I would imagine, is the strength to the FBI, especially, as you said, in all kinds of different offices across the country. It's a huge asset. Without it, everybody just looks like a Mormon.
Well, yes, and it doesn't work. It's not effective. And we've discovered that years ago in the FBI when we were trying, all of a sudden things blew up, literally bombs going off every day, Black Panthers and all of these organizations. And we had no sources there, but white guys in wingtip shoes weren't going to develop informants in the Black Panthers. And it's just the reality of the story. That's how it goes.
So that issue around diversity is one that we could put that to bed in terms of the importance that there is to the FBI. Just real quick on that, the politics. When you're in a field office, when you're at, I don't know, a stakeout, whatever you guys do or did, and you're talking amongst yourself, how often did it get political? I mean, I'm guessing that they're law enforcement. They lean conservative, but I mean, I would imagine a lot of them are Trump supporters that are actually being dismissed as well.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, carrying a gun and badge generally means you're there to preserve the status quo, which generally means you're probably conservative. And that's been my experience with the Bureau, of course. And with regard to the politicization, I got to tell you, it's the most apolitical group I've ever met. And there's rules for everything in the FBI, but one of the rules is you can't post any kind of election material on your cubicle. You can't walk around with a button, except it might say, I voted. That's about it. It's not what we talk about around the water cooler. The water cooler is, are you playing hoops at lunchtime? What are you doing this weekend? How are the kids? All of that. How's your case going? That's it. That's the organization that I lived for 25 years.
Did anything change during Trump's first administration, certainly after, and all the investigation into him, when he began to criticize the FBI, or actually even when he was in office? I remember that Helsinki meeting with Putin, where he threw the intel agencies under the bus and agreed with Putin over them. Like, did at some point the attitude towards this guy change, because he was constantly criticizing the important work that they don't get any credit for every day? Did eventually they flip at least on him, even though they're still conservative, probably likely Republican, and lean that way? Did they think, listen, after January 6th, this guy, he does not support us or our work?
Yeah, fascinating phenomenon that I saw take place from the outside looking in. We do have Trump to blame for not only dividing this country, but yes, for wreaking havoc on the FBI personnel, because that began this dialogue that never before existed in the hallways, right? Hey, what's up with Trump? Why did he fire Comey? We liked Comey. Well, maybe we did something wrong. Did we do something wrong? And then, he's the one who generated all of this. And then, look, it didn't help, and I talk about this in my first book, The FBI Way. It didn't help that Comey had that horrible press conference, at FBI headquarters, and said, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton. That was a disaster. He's not a prosecutor. He was the head of the FBI. That decision's made at the DOJ across the street. Then, of course, on the eve of the election, he announces, well, we opened another case on Hillary. No, we closed the case. We didn't find anything. What a freaking mess. So that handed Trump an excuse. And then he tees off on the FBI. And then by the time they got to a serious discussion at high levels about whether or not to execute a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, the head of the Washington field office was going, no, I'm not doing that. I just saw Andy Comey walk out the door. I just saw Andrew McCabe walked out the door. Pete Strzok walked out the door. I'm not doing that. So yeah, it's been now politicized.
Yeah, that's terrible, really, for all the obvious reasons. What do you think about, what is your take on this Kash Patel? He is not even remotely qualified, and he has clearly been picked to carry out Trump's every whim and every order and every retribution. So how dangerous is this guy? What are your thoughts on him?
I think so. I think everybody would guess my thoughts, which is he can't be confirmed. He cannot be confirmed. But I fear that's
confirmed, though. He's going to be
absolutely. Yeah. Well, he was voted out of committee. Yes. So that now it's going to go. Yeah. The entire partisan ways. He's going to show up. He's already told us who he is and what he's going to do. And we're going to see a very fascinating thing. The people don't realize the power an FBI director has. Why do I say that? You don't have to open certain cases. You can close certain cases. You can decide whether predication looks right to you to open a case or not. And if you combine with Pam Bondi at DOJ, who's your boss, you can do whatever Trump wants you to do. And that is what we're going to see. And if you thought the J. Edgar Hoover era of illegal wiretaps on Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, all planting evidence in microphones without court order, if you think that was bad, stand by.
One of the things that I've always been happy the FBI does is they investigate these anti-government, anti-federal government people, from the Bundy boys to the Ruby Ridge to the David Koresh to the Oath Keepers and the rest. And now it would seem that those far-right, white supremacist, Christian nationalist type organizations are maybe working with the administration. Trump invites Stuart Rhodes. We get what he's doing there, but it makes you wonder whether or not Kash Patel's FBI is going to be investigating. The Department of Justice apparently is getting rid of the entire Civil Rights Division or changing it to investigate how white folks are being discriminated against or something. But say a bit about, are you concerned about those types of organizations not being investigated or infiltrated by the federal government? These are American homegrown terrorist organizations oftentimes.
We may have seen our last domestic terrorism case opened at the FBI. Yeah. Come on. Who's going to open that case? Who's going to open that case? No. And as for civil rights, you're right. They've already made an announcement. They don't know if they're even going to have a civil rights unit at DOJ. We may have seen our last civil rights case in terms of a color of law, excessive use of force by the police, discrimination practices. Come on.
I mean, don't you have undercover agents right now in the middle of the woods somewhere with some whole bunch of rednecks talking about, doing terrible things to brown people or whatever, Jewish people? I mean, isn't that currently happening, I hope?
Sure. And I think that those undercover agents and also informants are at risk right now, risk of having someone tip off somebody that those people are under.
Finally, corruption. That's, again, a word that I feel like people just don't understand. They don't get concerned with. You investigate it at all kinds of levels. But inside the current government right now, this president and the people he's appointing and the types of corruption that we're already seeing, obviously Elon Musk inside the Treasury Department. My general question is, what are your concerns about federal government corruption with the Trump and the people he's appointed right now? What are you looking at? So
we've got a flipped coin here. We're going to be looking at unprecedented levels of corruption in the Trump administration, particularly with oligarchs doing illegal things everywhere. And we're going to have, flip side of that coin, no one's going to want to open those cases. You think Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are going to open cases against Elon Musk and everybody else who's getting paid off? I mean, how about the people, this Trump meme coin with his photo on it? That's called open bribery. If you want something done in the administration, pick up the phone or call your broker and tell them, I want 100 Trump coins. And then you tell the president, hey, I took care of you. I need some help with this project here.
I actually already did that. I got
I want to know the project that you wanted help with. That's what I want to know. Yeah. So corruption. Look, we already have seen a case dropped. There's a former congressman out in the middle of the country somewhere that had a corruption case on him. That's been dropped. He's Republican, friend of Trump's. Eric Adams, mayor of New York City. Very valuable position for the president to have in his pocket. Yeah. Went down to Mar-a-Lago, kissed the ring. And even though he's a Democrat, there's reports that DOJ is considering dropping his corruption case. We're not going to see cases opened on Republicans unless they go sideways with Trump.
Unless they go sideways with Trump is a good point. Tell me something that will make me happy, and then I'll let you go.
So someone recently said, you don't need a machine to fight a machine. You just need a handful of sand. And I think the handful of sand to screw up this administration and slow down the unlawful activity is already being thrown in the form of numerous lawsuits, requests for injunctive relief, class actions, not just at the FBI, but across the Department of Education, the USAID, the Treasury, OPM, and the court system is going to get jammed with cases. And you're going to see judges saying, yeah, you can't do this. As we just saw with a Reagan-appointed federal judge who said on a birthright citizenship challenge, yeah, this is the most blatantly unconstitutional thing I've ever seen, right? So we're going to see that resistance take shape. And Congress is planning to do some pretty cool things in the next week or two, including demanding that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi come back to the Hill, that Emil Bove, the acting DAG, come to the Hill and explain who is it exactly ordering you to fire these FBI agents? Please tell us.
That's a really good question that we'll probably never get the answer to, but I hope we do. Frank, you're a national treasure. So happy that you joined me here. You look great, by the way. You look great. I didn't even mention that. Your skin looks great. You look like you're taking good care of yourself in these times.
Smoke and mirrors, man. You too, from what I can see with this glare off of that head. But yes, I see it. Yes.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you, man.
Right.
Awesome. I got it. I hit stop. That was fucking great, bud. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Do I need to hang on while this uploads?
No, I had no blips. I got it all on my end. So you're good. Go get some rest and get back at it.
Thanks for having me. I'll be on Stephanie Rule way too late. All right.
Take care. Good luck, bud. Thank you.
Right. Bye.
Later.